great. I call the 2,399th meeting of the Milwaukie City Council to order. This meeting is being held in person at City Hall and by video conference. The public may participate in this meeting by coming to City Hall or joining the Zoom webinar. The meeting is being broadcast live on the city's YouTube channel and Comcast Cable Channel 30 in city limits. There will be opportunities for the public to speak during this meeting. If you would like to address council, you may come to City Hall or participate via Zoom. If you are interested in speaking, please let staff know by filling out a yellow comment card for those at City Hall or by emailing ocr@milwaukieoregon.gov for those on Zoom. When it is time to take public comments, staff will monitor the comment cards, email inbox, and Zoom participant list and chat. We will take comments in the order they are received and seen. Comments may be emailed to ocr@milwaukieoregon.gov. We ask that all Zoom participants who intend to speak label their Zoom username to show their first and last names for the record. Spanish translation services are available upon request. The public is asked to request translation and other meeting accessibility services at least 48 hours before the meeting. For more information, contact the city recorder at 503-786-7502. Servicios de traducción en español está disponible cuando sea solicitado. Se pide al público que solicite servicios de traducción y otros servicios de accesibilidad por lo menos 48 horas antes de la reunión. Para obtener más información, llama a el secretario de la ciudad a 503-786-7502. Translation services are also available in other languages. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The City of Milwaukie respectfully acknowledges that our community is located on the ancestral homeland of the Clackamas people. In 1855, the surviving members of the Clackamas signed the Willamette Valley Treaty, also known as the Kalapuya Etc. Treaty, with the federal government in good faith. We offer our respect and gratitude to the indigenous people of this land. And now we'll move into some announcements. Join a community conversation about loneliness and aging on Wednesday, March 20th. That would be tomorrow at 6 p.m. at the Letting Library. The conversation will discuss common experiences of loneliness and isolation and ideas for connection. And then on Thursday night, we have the Transportation System Plan Community Workshop here at City Hall. Everyone is invited. The workshop will discuss the draft goals and policies for the city's transportation system plan update. Participants will break into small groups to discuss the goals and policies from 6:15 to 7:15. Childcare will be available and refreshments will be served. For anyone not able to attend, an opportunity to review and comment on the draft goals and policies will be available on Engage Milwaukie online starting March 22nd. Visit the Letting Library anytime it is open between March 24th and 31st for a spring break scavenger hunt. Find 10 hidden pictures for a prize. Just stop by the children's desk to get started. All ages are welcome to participate. Okay, I might have to participate. Learn the key steps to achieving spectacular spring and summer container gardens on Sunday, March 31st at 2 p.m. at the Letting Library. The free class will be taught by Laura Iyer, who has been an OSU Extension Service Master Gardener volunteer since 1992. And save the date and sign up to volunteer for Earth Day 2024 on Saturday, April 20th at 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. The city will once again be hosting a volunteer event at the Willow Place Natural Area in the Lake Road neighborhood. Volunteers will focus on removing invasive plants and planting native plants. For more information about each of these events and others, please visit the city's homepage at milwaukieoregon.gov or call 503-786-7555. And it looks like Councilor Khosrowshahi might have something to say.
Thank you, Mayor. My finger was on the button. I just wanted to, some of you may not know, today is, at 8:06 tonight will be the Persian New Year, will be Nowruz. And I'm Iranian myself, and I just wanted to extend a Eid Mubarak to our Iranian community members and a happy Nowruz to everyone who celebrates. And that is all.
Thank you for that. And Nowruz is distinct from Ramadan, but we're also in Ramadan now, right?
Yes, we are currently in Ramadan as well. I'm not practicing Ramadan this year because I'm already way too skinny. But yes, so Ramadan Mubarak as well to everyone who's practicing and observing. Hopefully this Ramadan will bring much needed peace to our communities.
Thank you. And then we had a couple more short things, our boards and commissions. So this recruitment's been open since February, but it closes April 1st. So we're coming up to the deadline. We expect to have, there's 2 current vacancies, but there's a number, could be 15 to 20 people who are not, who are expired, their position is expiring and they're not choosing to continue, or they're term limited in those positions. So we do hope people will apply. We've got 20 applications, but we want everyone who's interested in, this is really a once a year solicitation to serve on our boards and committees. We often do also try to have a couple of alternates selected out of this process so that we don't have to do, inevitably somebody has to leave in the middle of the year for whatever personal reasons. And so we try to also appoint alternates out of this process. So this really is the big push for the year. So encourage anyone who's interested to please check out the website and submit your application. And it's the 2nd edition of the Mayor's Haiku. It's not the Mayor did not write this haiku. I just started the idea of a Milwaukie haiku at our last meeting. So this haiku was submitted by Linda Apperson, who's, and I'll read it. It says, "Enjoy the river, walk, ride, or play in the parks, celebrate our town." And she told me she is actually out doing just that in Milwaukie Bay Park with her granddaughter tonight. So I invite people to send me haiku. I got several people saying, great idea, but that hasn't sort of translated into a lot of haiku being submitted. So I do encourage people to send me haiku so that I have another one to read on April 2nd. And with that, did anybody else have any other announcement things? Nope. Okay. With that, we will move forward to the Milwaukee History Month proclamation. Mr. Stoffer, can you put up that picture? And then I know you have name tags for the folks. So I'm going to invite up Jay Jones and Donna Baton to introduce Wilda Parks. I guess they can all come up together. They don't need to come up, well, except there's, yeah. Anyway, however you guys want to do it. Wilda.
Just wait till they finish.
Okay. Yeah, that probably makes more sense so that they can sit together. Wilda was a Milwaukee City Councilor. She was briefly the Milwaukee Mayor. But that's only a tiny slice of the things Wilda has done in her 20 plus years in this area. And she knows everyone. She's served on every kind of board and commission and helped all kinds of charitable enterprises. And so it was really fitting that the North Clackamas Chamber of Commerce, where she did once work, gave her the Lifetime Achievement Award. So I wanted to invite these guys to sort of talk about that process and their selection of Wilda. However you guys want to do it.
What I want to say about Wilda is, I don't think there are any facts that either y'all don't already know about her or she's going to tell you tonight. But when I moved here to Milwaukie 6.5 years ago to start my business, Wilda was one of the first people I met in my networking, probably at the Chamber of Commerce networking, but in other networking as well. And for these 6.5 years, she's been my friend, my neighbor, my confidant, my role model, my mentor, and has been such an inspiration to me as a woman business owner in this area, and just has been so welcoming to me. And I know I'm not the only one. I know that's how she is. We've done chamber things together. We've been on numerous committees together. We're in Rotary together. She's volunteered me for several things over the years, which I really do appreciate. And so it's just been an honor to work with her and play with her and network with her. And thank you very much for allowing me to be here tonight to introduce her as the Chamber of Commerce 2024 Lifetime Achievement Award. So,
Thank you. And Jay? Yeah, you need it to be read.
Fantastic.
Yeah, there you go.
This is high society compared to my chamber. My name is Jay Jones. I am the president and CEO of the North Clackamas Chamber of Commerce, and I just circling myself on a year, but I've lived in Happy Valley for the last 5 years, and I knew who Wilda Parks was before, as I started interviewing for the role. As I met people, I had coffee with Ann. I just started, part of the job is really getting to know the community and the members that you're going to serve. And every place I went, someone said, "Oh, have you talked to Wilda yet?" When I was selected for the role, Don and I were having a conversation, and I said, "Hey, I want to meet Wilda Parks because everyone's been talking to me about her." And so we were going to set up a coffee date. Well, 2 or 3 days before I started, I snuck in at a ribbon cutting on a Friday, and there's Wilda Parks, one of the first people I'd met. And I was astounded by her genuine, authentic personality, her energy, and her hugs. Like, she will squeeze you to death, which is fantastic. That same hug and love, she's shown me over the last year. We've met different times, and she tells me stories, and she tells me, she comes off humble, but then she still kind of leans in and points her finger a little bit that says, you need to sign up for this committee, and you need to make sure that you get with these ACE people. You're going to want to get around them. Yes, ma'am. She sends me some emails that says, "Oh, there's this nonprofit over here that doesn't know what to do with their furniture, but I bet you can figure it out." Yes, I'm on it. I got it. I really enjoyed when I was reading the nomination forms, and everyone talked about her caring, how she shows up, her story. And I talked to her several times, but on the day of the event, the Lifetime Achievement Award, she was amazing. She just flowed, and she was really, really authentic. She talked about the struggles, and she talked about, having kids at a young age, and she talked about, different scenarios and, having divorces and that kind of thing. And I really respected that as someone that other people look at, because things happen, and you have to pivot in life. And she showed everyone that, you can remember her from being a mayor. You can remember her being the president CEO of the chamber and all these committees, but she's a person at heart, and it makes people understand that it's okay. It's okay, you know, to stumble, but when you stumble, you got to get up and get moving, and, you know, Wilda Parks gets moving, and she gets people moving, and so I'm so honored, you know, to be here. Thanks for inviting us to come, because she's a special friend, and she goes out of her way for folks. After the event, she said, "Oh, you're going to do, you know, you're going to do other Wilma events." I said, "Oh yeah, we're doing a learning course, and then the next one we're going to do Wilma 2." And she says, "Huh, I bet I could mentor some people." I'm like, "Yes, ma'am, I bet you could. You definitely, you will be on the program because there's capstone projects and mentorship available." So she and I will be hanging out a lot more, and I'm honored to do so.
Well, thank you guys so much. I invite Wilda to come up, and I should say that I did not introduce this very well. This is we invited Wilda, and we invited you guys to mark Women's History Month with us. I did want to give a shout out to the book that you see the cover on the slideshow, Milwaukee's Historic Women. That's a book put out by the Milwaukie Museum. You can get it at the Milwaukie Museum. I think it's $15 or maybe $20. And it's a great book, and they have a great exhibit of women through the years, including, you know, past elected women, as well as, you know, Florence Ledding and the names you know from Milwaukie. But anyway, I was really sorry to be out of town when when there was the luncheon to honor Wilda in January. And so I was glad that this was a nexus where she's gonna, I think, give us a little sampling of the speech she gave at that luncheon. And so I'm excited that we have that opportunity since I missed it.
Do want to tell you that for those of you who heard the speech at the luncheon, this is not going to be the same speech because we're talking about Women's History Month. So it caused me to think about how some of those kinds of factors impacted my life throughout the years. And so I've kind of combined the two, and I truly did try to edit it, but you know, here I am. And for those who know me, you know I can talk. Thank you very much, actually, for inviting me to be part of Women's History Month. I'm honored to be a citizen of Milwaukie and help contribute to the successes of our city and our region. I'm a child of the World War II years. My family lived in a lot of places. Both my parents worked, and often we slept by the roadside with other travelers. When I was a child, I didn't know that was different from the way other people lived. In 1943 in San Jose, California, we lived in a boxcar. A couple of years later, continuing to move around, we were in Phoenix, Arizona, living in a tent, a huge canvas tent that was portioned off with spaces for sleeping. It was my mother, my father, my grandmother, my sister, my brother, oh, and 2 dogs. Then almost magically, both my parents got jobs, live-in jobs, in a 21-room mansion on Biltmore Drive with Camelback Mountain in the background and a golf course in our backyard. That's where, when I was 6 years old, I had my first bedroom. Throughout my youth, we continued to move throughout the United States. For me, as a young girl, the one plus in moving was that I could always find a library where I would spend my time. Libraries, my babysitter, my sanctuary, often my educator. The world, the nation, was changing around me, and I didn't notice. When I was born, women had only had the right to vote for 20 years. My mother was a child when that happened. My dad, who was 50 when I was born, had experienced that time. I realized we were a household of 3 generations and 3 different expectations. By the time I was 19, I had been married, divorced, had a child. My second marriage was shortly before my 20th birthday. Through those years, I worked as a waitress in a variety of settings, a coffee shop, a dinner house, a local cafe, a drive-in. No high school diploma, working housewife, young children, no roots. I figured I would just work really hard at being the best server possible. Then in 1967, my husband and children and I moved to Montana, a move that changed my life. It was in Montana that I began to see needs all around me, not just my own family. I quit waitressing, and after other community service, I opened a recreation center for the kids of the area. Then a friend of mine convinced me to run for school board. And I'm like, I don't even have a high school education. I can't do that. She said, yeah, you can. I put my hat in the ring, ran for election, and I won the election. It just goes to show what you can do when somebody believes you and gives you courage and confidence. And serving on that district board was exhilarating. I loved it. Looking at issues, discussing solutions, choosing a method, looking for the long term, kind of like city council. And then we moved back to California. My marriage unraveled quickly about the time I decided to take a GED test and get my high school equivalency. With that, I realized I could go to community college, then the University of San Francisco, and I was 47 years old, starting a new job as the CEO of the Hanford, California Chamber of Commerce when I graduated with honors. I recall that it was at that time period that I was able to get my first credit card on my own name. That's also when I purchased my first car in my own name. I was shaking so bad from nervousness at that car dealer and anxiety that I could barely sign for it, a Ford Pinto. I didn't always make good choices. Women were still working their way through job situations that previously had been men only, and chambers of commerce were one of those. At least male dominated, if not men only. The U.S. Chamber's School for Chamber staff was male oriented, and in 1984, they even taught women how to shake hands with a male business person and not feel subservient about doing it. When I was invited to join Rotary International in 1989, I was the first female in a club of over 100 men. Friends called my newbie red badge the red badge of courage. I don't think myself, anyone, other people serve our community thinking it will bring us recognition or an award. I believe we're all looking for the reward of a stronger, healthier community. My path was and is similar, and yet it's different from others. But our goals are the same, and little would be accomplished if we were alone. My story of the roads that led me here is not unique. I'm sure there are many who can relate, but I do think it's an example of what was and what could be. We each determine our own areas of interest and work towards solutions. For me, I focused around helping to ensure that everyone's voices were heard at all levels. All the committees, task forces, other things I served on in all my years on Milwaukie City Council and continuing now, that's still my focus. Milwaukie has a great reputation of inclusion, not just of women, but also of other marginalized groups. Although, in over 100 years as a city, Milwaukie has only had 4 women mayors. The women who came before us, who fought for the right to vote, fought for equal pay, fought for the right to have a credit card in their own name, and so many other issues that helped ensure there was equality between men and women in the United States, are among those to be celebrated during Women's History Month. They set the stage for the opportunities that we all, male and female, enjoy today. Thank you, Milwaukie, for recognizing the positive advances for and by women. Thank you. want to also give a thanks to my granddaughter, who has been my savior in getting to a lot of places and a lot of other ways too. So,
Yes, thank you, Heather, thank you, Heather, for helping her be here with us tonight, for sure. And I will read the proclamation, and then before you go, I'd like for us to all get a picture up here with, yeah, great. Whereas in each year since 1987, the United States has observed Women's History Month, a month-long celebration every March to acknowledge the struggles and contributions of women of every race, class, and ethnic background. And whereas, despite the challenges of finding appropriate childcare, which were exacerbated by the pandemic, and the continuing pay gap between men and women, women have played and continue to play critical economic, cultural, and social roles in every sphere of society and constitute a significant portion of the labor force. And whereas women have been leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, and especially the peace movement, and continue to be on the forefront of efforts toward a more equitable and democratic society. And whereas, despite these contributions, the role of women in Milwaukie, Oregon, and our national histories has been overlooked and undervalued. Now, therefore, I, Lisa Beatty, Mayor of the City of Milwaukie, a municipal corporation in the County of Clackamas in the state of Oregon, and with the full support of and sponsorship of the Milwaukie Historical Society, do hereby proclaim March 2024 to be Women's History Month in Milwaukie, and do recommend its observance with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. All right. So if everyone wants to come in front, yeah, let's go in front of the, yeah. And Donna and Jay, come join. Yeah, these things aren't very.
Oh gosh, what's that? Oh yeah, you gotta run it out. I've meant for months to come in here and just it comes right now. 3. Saturday Night Live.
Just sit on it.
It's all hard.
thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Beautiful. Beautiful speech. And you did a great job.
I do, I still get nervous. It is, in a sense, isn't it? Thank you, Jay. I'm so glad you're able to be here tonight. Thank you guys. Thanks. I everything I hear.
Okay, now that we've got, are we all off center? Yeah. Okay.
You need a moment?
No, I think we're okay. We can move on. So our next item is, I'm skipping over is a special report on the fiscal year 2023 annual comprehensive financial report, presented by our finance director, Michael Osborne. And I think there were some extra copies. I should have said that before they left, but this is the financial report. We all had it at our place, and I think there are some extra copies back there if anybody wants one.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I did provide an updated ACFR document to everybody. This has the auditor's letter in the front which wasn't in the packet that was sent on Friday. We received that on Monday. That's the only significant change. Excuse me. So I'm here to talk about the financial reporting for the last fiscal year, June 30th, 2023. The city has two financial documents that we distribute yearly, the ACFR and the PAFR. The ACFR, known as the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, is a high-level technical document outlining the city's financial position at year end. The audience for this report is government regulators, auditors, and bankers. It's a 100-page plus document I have last year's in front of me, which has a lot of financial information. The PAFR report, which for 2023, we have with our graphic designer, so I will send it around to you when it's done, but this is last year's, is a brief summary level document highlighting the city's finances. The audience for this is residents, citizens, and it's used to create discussion and dialogue on the city's finances. It's a 10-page summary. I'd like to announce too that the city has received the GFOA award for ACFR reporting for the previous 10 years, and we received it in 2022. Our timeline of the financial audit for last year: on June 30th, we ended the fiscal year. In July, our auditors, Aldrich and Associates, came out and did an interim field work. This is to look at our policies and procedures and do some sample testing. In August of last year, we met with the audit committee to kick off the annual audit season, and met with them and had an opportunity for the audit committee to ask the auditors any questions or anything that they wanted reviewed. In November of 2023, the auditors were on site to do their sampling and testing of our financial documents. In January of 2024, we completed our financial document review, which is the ACFR. Last year, with my predecessor leaving, we had a gap in that time. So we reached out to a consultant, Marina, who was our previous auditors, and they helped immensely with just giving guidance, education to get us through the process. In February of 2024, this went through Aldrich Partner Review and completed that stage. And we presented it to the audit committee at the end of February. And then as of last week, March 13th, we submitted it to the Secretary of State. So it's been submitted to the state regulators. The audit results, the city received a clean and unmodified opinion for the annual audit, which is great. Aldrich did identify a couple internal issues. One was there's a material weakness in internal controls in place to identify and correct year-end reporting. I'll discuss a little bit more about that with the next slide. Also, there was multiple violations of city procurement policy during the year. This was related to a contract in the summer of 2023 that you should all remember regarding slurry seal. There was also a comment about failure to advertise requirements. This was on, I believe, one instance where we did not advertise in the publications that we should have. We've since done an internal audit trying to find the scope of that, which Kelly Tucker is currently working on. We don't have the results of that yet. Also, there was a failure to obtain appropriate approvals prior to entering the contract, and I think that this goes back to the slurry seal contract. In the past 2 years, since I've been here, we've tried to update and bring our reporting standards up to GFOA standards. In the last 2 years, there was two big Gatsby standard implements, 86 and number 87, regarded to lease and subscriptions. This is a big change for us as we're just documenting and itemizing transactions involving leases and all IT subscriptions that the city has. So we're doing a more thorough explanation of what those are in our reporting.
When you say leases, you mean software? Or,
I mean, any leases, there's not many, but there's buildings.
okay,
Actual lease.
real estate.
Real estate
State
items.
leases, okay.
We don't have much of it. Most of it is in the IT subscriptions. In order to help with this, we purchased a software, Lease Query, that has helped us report. It's a reporting tool to capture all this and itemize it, which has helped a ton. Also, in this year, we added the Milwaukie Redevelopment Commission financial statements. The threshold for reporting, the MRC has met to now. There's a couple different levels. There's a level for an audit, and then there's a level for a review. And we met the level for a review that Aldridge did. So we submitted separate financial statements for the MRC. And also we had bond proceeds, and there was updating of accounting standards for interest income. Bottom line, that this led to 15 journal entries that were made at the end of the year. I have a summary that we went over with some members of the audit committee of what those are. If you want more detailed listing of the transactions, we can provide it. But in summary, there were 8 auditor preference changes from the past year that we were updating how we did things in the prior year to this year. 3 due to the Gatsby, which is the standards and leases. 2 were standard end of the year entries that we were making. And then there was 2 correcting entries that we made for errors that we caught that we needed to correct. So I went back today and was looking at this time last year when I was here, and we said that we wanted to, I should go back, that the goal of this audit is to present this by December 31st, 2024. And when I went back to last year, we said the same thing, that, hey, we're going to do this, and we committed to do this. And I didn't live up to that, which bothers me a ton. And I know that we need to make changes in order to hit that deadline. So the changes that we're looking at making is increase procurement training, conduct internal audits of procedure or procurements, which is Kelly's doing. We want to move up the audit in office field work date from November to late September, early October. In the past 2 years, we've had challenges with that as a former finance director left, and then we had to postpone for that. This year, we had the move of the building, which was into October, so we had to wait for that. This year, I really want to get the auditors out here in September so that we have adequate time to go through our process, do the financial reporting, and submit this by 12/31. For me, continuing education and guidance, I think, would be a help. I've learned a ton in the last 2 years with help from Marina. Tanya Moffett, the partner there, she's available for questions, guidance, at things. When I get to a stuck point, I can go to her, and she's been a huge help in this. The last thing we have is have the auditors complete the financial reporting piece of this. There's pluses and minuses to this. The plus is, if they're doing it, it's coming straight from the auditors. They know what they're looking for, and We would still write the city's piece in all this, but the technical financial piece reporting would come straight from them. The downside to this is there's a cost. It's not a significant cost, but there's a cost to it. So we're exploring options going forward of having them do this piece so that it would help us save time. Another aspect is staffing. Now that I've moved into this role, there's an opening for an AFD, which we're going out next week to market. And I think with somebody else coming in, it's going to free up my time so that we have more time to work on the audit. It's been a challenge over the last 2 years to get through all this, and I'm incredibly grateful to the team, Judy, Kelly, Maddie, Taylor, all of them for stepping up and helping, but it's a lot of work that we did. So with that, I'm opening up to questions. That's all I had.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate, all the work you did pulling this forward. We've heard a few interim reports about how much back and forth there was with the auditors and I think, Council President Massey serves on the audit committee, so he kind of filled us in on some of that. So we appreciate you working it through 2 changes of finance directors over the last 2 years. Anybody have questions for Michael?
Not so many questions, but just appreciation. This is an incredibly huge process, and I know that you were involved, from the beginning, but you've taken on an additional role, and especially as of late. So I really appreciate that, and appreciate the work of your team. Thank you.
Questions? Comments?
Thank you, Michael, for all the work you've done and the staff. I know that we've had some extenuating circumstances, which has caused some delays. And it looks to me like we recognize those delays and we're working to improve them. And I appreciate that you have an outline of what you're thinking we need to do to hit that deadline, which I assume is December 31st of every year,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And we've missed it 2 years in a row?
Yes.
Okay. So, but thank you for your work and thanks for looking ahead at how we can improve this process. Make sure we hit those deadlines.
I will say to that the document that we put forward the last 2 years has gotten better each year. The delay, we've used that to improve the document and create the document. It was a great document before, and the GFOA awards support that, but the standards keep rising. So it's a living, breathing document, so to speak. So as the standards change, we need to change and update them with it.
Thank you. And is there any penalty or adverse effect of missing this deadline other than, please don't do this again, from the Secretary of State or whoever?
There's not a financial penalty. It doesn't speak well if you continuously do it, and I'm aware of that. So I think for this year, it's especially important that we hit it. I'm not aware of any harsh penalties, but I think the goal is if a city or a government isn't reporting this on time in a yearly basis, I think the state then comes in and wonders if there's questions.
Right. Yeah. Even if we're doing things right and we're just delayed, the optics are terrible if it's continuing. So thank you, though, for your work.
Council President?
Well, congratulations, Michael, on your new gig. It kind of seems like the same gig, I guess. My appreciation for, getting these tasks done under, some level of pressure, I guess you might say. So I want to thank you and thank your team for getting that done. I do have a question about this one particular slide, and it's have auditors complete the financial reporting piece of the ACFR, which I agree would save staff time, but it's, we understand it's additional cost, and I'm not against that cost, and understand, the pros and cons of outsourcing certain work. but I guess I'm trying to grasp how an auditor would audit their own work.
That is an excellent question, and one that we have talked with Marina about, who's advising us during this process. There's two ways I've heard it. One is from Tanya saying to not have the same audit firm who's auditing you prepare the financials. And the reason for that is you can't audit your own work. So one approach is that we look for two firms, and that's going to be an additional cost. The other way that I've heard it from a couple people I've talked to is accounting firms have different partners in different wings. So they're saying that one side doesn't talk to the other, and one partner is going to check the other partner's work independently within the firm. I have questions on that. As far as how the industry goes, both examples are there, but I tend to lean with going with a separate firm to have a separate set of eyes to look over this. As we were preparing this document, Marina was looking, Aldridge and Marina were both looking at it, and I felt that that's where we got value. As Aldridge can only give you so much guidance, but by going to Marina, they were able to speak kind of more frequently or more just truth, and be saying this is why we do this and this is why this is reported, and explaining the why behind it. So to your point, I kind of think that going with two different firms is the way to go.
Yeah, and there's certainly examples of firewalls, and you see that in legal firms and that kind of thing, where they firewall, possible, conflicts of interest. But I do agree with you, going with a separate firm is just a much cleaner situation. Yeah.
Councilor Khosrowbadi?
Yes, thank you, Michael, and congrats on the new gig, as Council President Massey said. You walked into a good one. So I appreciate you putting all this together in such short, time frame, and having to, pick up the pieces, really. So thank you for that, and I look forward to, the future budgets being more complete in terms of a lot less of this. So I do appreciate your initiatives on that. A couple of questions just on the annual comprehensive financial report. On page 9, it talks about reserve policy guidelines for funds are measured as a percentage of annual operating expenditures and generally range between 17% and 50% depending on the fund. Where is it listed in here what percentage those funds are? I'm looking specific for water fund, wastewater fund, stormwater fund.
I can't point you to where it is, but
Okay,
I can
but
get you
is
that
it in here?
information. I believe it is. If it's not, I can get it to you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's a big document. I'll get to it later. But thanks for that.
I just wanted to ask, on one of your earlier slides, you talked about who these documents are for. And I remember when I was first on council, they would give us like 10 of the PAFRs to hand out to people. And I rarely gave all 10 away. So it's good that you don't do that anymore. I don't want to waste the paper. But how do you give out the PAFR? And when you say that the ACFR is for businesses and bankers, I assume that's mostly electronic and not an actual hard copy that they're accessing?
So that's a great question. With both these documents can be found on the city's website. The ACFR we're going to put on later this week, and the PAFR before the end of the month once we get it back from a graphic designer. So the best place to find it is online. Last year I did a tour of the NDAs. We printed up 1,000 of the PAFR documents and went around and kind of did a education speaking tour of it, trying to get people familiar with it, answering questions of it. And then this year, we're hoping that people can, well, I'm sure it'll be linked on the website and maybe social media somewhere, but we want people to go online to find it. Internally, we just have about 10 copies, paper copies of the ACFR that we just use for ourselves. We submit it electronically to the state, and I believe to bankers who we have bonds with for their annual review, but that's all electronic.
Okay, yeah, okay, great. Well, thank you. If nobody else has any questions, that was, oh,
Well, I just want to say one more thing while he's in the hot seat to embarrass him further. I appreciate all the kind words council has shared with Michael. It's been a real pleasure working with Michael over the last 2.5 months as we scrambled towards the end of the year with the resignation of our previous director, and he hasn't missed a beat. I think what you don't see, you know, you've heard a lot of the updates about the audit committee and various specifics on this project or process. What I love about the finance team is they're like the duck on water. Like you see the ducks above water, but below with a feeder moving, you know, and it just keeps propelling it forward. I mean, what it takes to run this organization in terms of payroll, in terms of utility billing, in terms of all the things that just make the day-to-day run, they just happen and we never have to worry about it. And that's happening on top of all this turmoil. And he keeps one of the kind of best team morale that I see in the city. So this promotion for Michael is just a recognition of what a tremendous leader he is. I have no doubt that we're going to meet all those goals that were up on that slide, and I'm really happy that he's with Team Milwaukie.
thank you. And didn't you mean a goose on the water?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, absolutely, a goose.
Well, thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
We will be seeing a lot more of you as we're going into budget season, so.
Just remember, April 27th, May 4th, and May 11th are the dates. It should all be on your calendar for budget review. Yep. Good way to look at it.
Yep. Great, thank you. All right. Community comments. This is the part of the agenda during which council will hear community member comments regarding city business that is not already on the agenda. Before we begin, is there any follow-up from the February 20th or March 5th? Community comments, Ms. Sager.
There is. So at our March 5th regular session, we received a significant amount of community comment about transportation safety on 29th Avenue. Since then, staff have been hard at work following the direction council gave to begin working on a comprehensive plan for greenway improvements around the city. And we this week had a wonderful walk on 29th with several staff in the engineering and community development department and residents out there. So we appreciated that dialogue and we're excited to see where that work goes. And the second follow-up is we received comment at the March 5th meeting from David Cheatzazan requesting a proclamation around peace in the Middle East, and council is working on a proclamation on that topic. It is scheduled for April 16th.
Ah, okay. Okay, good to know. Good to know. Okay. Well, so before I go on reading the script, I don't think there's anybody in the room who's here for community comment. Do we have anybody online?
Mayor Beatty, I have no yellow comment cards, and I don't believe the person on Zoom is here for community comment time. And I'll just report that council received this afternoon one piece of correspondence that would fall under the community comment time from the same David Cheatzazan on the same topic as Assistant City Manager Sager just mentioned. So that's all I have.
Okay, well, with that, I will forego reading the long script and go on to the consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda includes minutes of the City Council February 13th, 2024 study session, February 13th, 2024 special session, February 20th, 2024 work session, and February 20th, 2024 regular session. An Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission application for Grandma's Corner Kitchen, 10880 Southeast McLaughlin Boulevard for a full on-premises license. Does any member of council wish to remove a consent agenda item? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve consent agenda as presented.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. None heard. The consent agenda is passed unanimously. All right, public hearings. We have a public hearing tonight. The public hearing on the proposed street vacations at the Hillside Redevelopment project is called to order. The purpose of this hearing is to hear the staff report, take public comments, deliberate, and consider the proposed street vacations in the Hillside redevelopment. Does any member of council wish to announce actual or potential conflicts of interest? I don't see any, so with that, I will turn it over to Senior Planner Vera Colias. Oh, yeah.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Thank you very much. Vera Colias, Senior Planner, to present the Hillside Park right-of-way vacation application. Okay, so the image that you see here is the shaded in portion is the proposed right-of-way vacation area. So we are here to hold this public hearing to consider an ordinance that would vacate these portions of the public right-of-way in the Hillside Park area. This is for phase 1 of the Hillside Park development, which will include new right-of-way alignment and associated dedications for that. But we need to vacate the existing right-of-way in order for phase 1 to move forward. This is the site plan for phase 1 of the proposed development. So back in November of 2021, council adopted Ordinance 2210 that adopted the final plan development plan and program for Hillside Park. So the plan development proposal is for the redevelopment of Hillside Park, which is owned and operated by the Housing Authority of Clackamas County. The tower will remain obviously on the site, and the remainder of the site will be redeveloped to create approximately 500 additional new units on the site for a total of 600 units as part of the entire project. It's been phased into 2 phases. And so phase 1 is what you see before you now in 3 buildings, buildings A, B, and C. All of these buildings have in fact been submitted for permits. So we're in permit review for phase 1 right now. And part of that building C, which is the one that you see on the left of the site plan, is the building in which residents that are going to be relocated from the existing dwellings as part of phase 1. That's the building that folks are being offered that they can be relocated to is that building C there. So again, the proposed redevelopment will involve phased demolition of all of the existing improvements on the site. That includes the existing dwellings, demolition of the roads, removal or abandonment of the underground infrastructure. So there's a new street layout. So if you remember from the previous slide, so all the streets are kind of at an angle. And so the idea is that those will be realigned into a more traditional block layout and alignment. So the right-of-way vacation process, the Housing Authority is the sole property owner of all of that property that is affected by the vacation. So they submitted a petition for that vacation, and those application materials were included in your packet. Staff prepared a legal notice that is to be published in the paper of record, which is the Oregonian, and that notice, and we did receive an affidavit of publication that was also in your packet. Those notices were published for 2 consecutive weeks prior to tonight's hearing. The petitioner posted a sign on the site. We actually gave them 3 signs, I believe, because it's a big site. So we had them post them at the ends of 3 of the different sections of the right-of-way so that folks on the property would be aware of it as well. And then, of course, council would hold the public hearing this evening. So again, this is the right-of-way vacation area. It's that shaded area. This is just from the tax map. So you can see that the whole hillside area is actually only 2 tax lots. There's the one that the tower is on, and then the rest is all one tax lot. So the shaded areas, those portions of Hillside Court, A Street, B Street, C Street, D Street, and D Place are under request for the vacation this evening. So the standard of review for a right-of-way vacation, and this is outlined in the staff report as well, is that consent of the owners for the vacation, that notice be duly given, and that the public interest is not prejudiced by the vacation. So again, as required by the Oregon Revised Statutes, the petitioner did initiate that vacation. That was the application provided by the Housing Authority. Notice was provided as required in the Oregonian, as well as the notice signs posted on site. Staff has not received any written correspondence or objections to the vacation as of this evening. And then finally, the public interest will not be prejudiced by the vacation of this public right-of-way. The entire point of the vacation is to allow for phase one of this approved development to move forward. This residential development will, at the end of the 2 phases, provide 500 additional units of affordable housing for the city. So the public interest is in fact served by the vacation to allow for the project to go forward. And again, that vacated right-of-way will have new replacement right-of-way that will be dedicated as part of phase one. We just kind of need to go through this in a sequential process. Again, the permits have already been submitted for phase one, but the vacation needs to happen first. Then they will submit a final plat to create the lots that will be part of this phase one, and we'll kind of keep moving forward in that process in that way. But the vacation needs to happen for this to move forward. So staff's recommendation, of course, is to grant the petition and adopt the ordinance vacating the right-of-way as proposed. Again, if the council should approve this, is because as we've stated, that the required consent has been obtained, notice has been duly given, and the public interest will not be prejudiced by the vacation. That's what's right out of the statute. So I feel like I need to say that again. My contact information is here, but you all know where to find me. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the vacation if you have any.
Just out of curiosity, because again, that sounds really loud. Out of curiosity, because and I mentioned this before in our study session, I believe. This is a project that's been on since I've been on Planning Commission. Has anything changed about this project in terms of number of units that are going to be affordable, the mixed income development part, the residential, and then the commercial on the bottom? I mean, I know it wasn't going to be like a 7-Eleven on the bottom, right? It was going to be different, but the number of bike parking spaces that we asked for on the planning, has any of that changed or been?
The layout of the layout of the proposal has changed somewhat. That the number of units has not changed. In fact, I believe through the variations, there may be 1 additional unit actually in the total, which is great. But so the way that when the master plan was approved, that was a pretty conceptual plan, sort of more like a massing study, if anything. And when the Housing Authority went out to seek developers to come in, there have been some slight variations of the overall layout, but it's substantially conforms with the approved master plan. So number of units, bike parking, vehicle parking, the EV requirements, those are all part of all of this. The commercial spaces that were proposed as part of the concept for building A, which is the one closest to 32nd, are more likely to be more not actual like retail kinds of spaces. They will certainly be designed such that it creates that storefront appearance, but they are more likely to be more amenity spaces for residents. It will have that appearance of it, but as far as like full on commercial kinds of spaces, it appears unlikely that more of that space is going to actually be used for residents and for residential development.
And mostly like amenities, is there going to be any like maybe localized resources for?
There will be resource rooms as part of that space. And I think, again, that's still kind of being programmed, but our understanding is that, yes, there will be resource rooms for residents of the entire development. Their community space will be part of Building C for that first building that's going up there. So again, there have been some slight variations. There's a plaza space kind of at 31st Ave, but there's actually more green space and more open space with the new layout than what was originally proposed. And some of the bedroom counts are changed, so we're getting some more multi-bedroom units as opposed to studios in one. So the unit mix is definitely in our favor. And I know that Alec Lawrence from Related Development is actually on the call if you have any more specific questions about that. But he has joined us for the hearing as well, if you have any other questions for the developer side as well. But yeah.
No, I appreciate them being here, but those are the changes that I actually like to hear about, so.
Well, I wanted to follow up on one. Which is, he talked about mixed income, and it was originally going to be some market rate mixed in, but as I understand, that is no longer the case. It's all affordable housing.
That is correct, yes.
And it's all affordable housing at what, is it 80% of 60%? 80%?
60 and
60,
below, yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Great. Great. Other questions, Councilor
Thank you.
Savage?
Just a couple questions. Do you anticipate any displacement for residents, or do they have a plan in place so that absolutely everyone will have a place while the development is happening?
So my understanding is that the Housing Authority staff has been working with the residents already for that transition plan. I don't know the specifics of it, and maybe Alec can come on the call if he knows more about that. My understanding, though, is that Housing Authority has been working with all of those residents to make sure that there is a place for them, kind of during the construction, post-construction, that placements have been made, but I don't know all the details about that.
Okay.
If Alex wants to answer that, he's welcome to. We did also ask to have a fuller briefing on Hillside, so maybe that's a topic for another day, but.
Okay, yeah, I can hold that question. My other question has to do with the future units. So as we're looking to gain a lot of affordable units, and maybe this is a question for that deeper briefing as well, but I guess one of my concerns is the ability for existing residents of that area of Hillside Park to be able to still find a home there. And then if we've had any conversations about the prioritization of Milwaukie residents who are on the Housing Authority wait list to be prioritized for this development.
Yeah, sorry, Vera, just watching you do a great job. Good questions, Councilor Savage. What I can say is I think May 7th we're going to have Devin Ellen from the Housing Authority, and she'll be able to present and answer a lot of these in-depth questions that you're asking. My conversations with her specifically, especially about relocation, is that some of their projects like Good Shepherd Village out in Happy Valley are opening up at a kind of a good time for this. So they've already been working with their tenants and moving them over and giving them options there. And yes, as part of that, there is also the option of moving back if they want, but also to stay if they potentially like that. As far as priority of the future and who gets that, that's a good question for Devin.
Okay, I appreciate that. I think, not only do we have the potential to disrupt a sense of community that folks have, but I'm thinking also about families and their involvement in their local schools. So, for the number of students who might attend Ardenwald, if they move out to Happy Valley, would they be looking at changing schools, or have we had, has the Housing Authority had a good conversation with the school district about what it would take to maintain that connection to the school? So those are some of, and I sent an email out to Devin just this evening. So we'll bring that up either offline or in the meeting on the, what did you say, the 7th?
I think it's May 7th.
May 7th?
Yeah.
Okay.
We just
great.
confirmed that this week, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions? Nobody has, okay. I did have one. So the other, can you go back to the slide that's showing the streets were, yeah, okay. So the houses on the, whatever that is, north side of that, will they remain and will residents remain in them during the construction?
My understanding is, yes, we're maintaining all infrastructure, roads,
Okay.
water lines, everything is staying for those
Okay.
folks, yes. Yeah.
I mean, this doesn't really bear on my vote on vacating, but I will just note that at that circle that's part of this shaded red to vacate is where there's a laundry room that is used by residents. Are they building a new laundry room for them?
Yeah, in fact, we've been fielding questions and they are going to be converting one of the existing homes into laundry. So
Into the-
laundry
okay.
will remain on the site.
Okay,
Yes,
great,
yes.
great, good. All right. If no further questions, then, have we received any additional correspondence on this topic? Nope. Okay. Does anyone wish to comment on the proposed street vacations? I don't see anyone in the audience looking to comment. Mr. Stoffer, anyone online? No. Okay, so I will skip the rest of that script. Does staff have any response to the testimony? Since there was no testimony, I guess staff doesn't have any
I do
response.
not, no.
Any last questions from council for staff? All right. If there are no more questions, I will entertain a motion to close the public comment part of the hearing.
I move to close the public comment part of the Hillside Redevelopment Project Street Vacations hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public comment part of the Hillside Redevelopment Project Street Vacation hearing. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. None heard. It passes unanimously. Oh, I'm sorry. The public comment part of the hearing is closed. Uh-oh, I jumped ahead. Is there any council discussion? Is council ready to vote? In which case I will entertain, our script is, okay. Okay, our script has a few glitches, but okay, the motion looks okay. I will entertain a motion. The green block. It says business registration.
I move for the first and second readings by title only and adoption of the ordinance vacating the public street rights-of-way within the Hillside Park development designated as portions of Southeast Hillside Court, Southeast A Street, Southeast B Street, Southeast C Street, Southeast D Street, and Southeast D Place.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded for the first and second readings by title only and adoption of the ordinance vacating the public street rights-of-way within the Hillside Park development designated as portions of Southeast Hillside Court, Southeast A Street, Southeast B Street, Southeast C Street, Southeast D Street, and Southeast D Place. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. None heard. It passes unanimously. Ms. Sager, would you read the ordinance 2 times by title only?
Absolutely. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Milwaukie, Oregon, vacating the public street rights-of-way within the Hillside Park development designated as portions of Southeast Hillside Court, Southeast A Street, Southeast B Street, Southeast C Street, Southeast D Street, and Southeast D Place. And again, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Milwaukie, Oregon, vacating the public street rights-of-way within the Hillside Park development designated as portions of Southeast Hillside Court, Southeast A Street, Southeast B Street, Southeast C Street, Southeast D Street, and Southeast D Place.
And Mr. Stoffer, would you please poll the council?
Counselor Coster-Abadi,
Aye.
Counselor Abma,
Aye.
Council President Massey,
Aye.
Counselor Stavengerd,
Aye.
Mayor Beatty.
Aye.
Motion carried 5-0, ordinance 2240.
All right. Okay, so we don't have any, okay. Great. Well, thank you, Vera.
Thank you very much.
Council reports. I do have a few council reports, but we have our engineer here, and I wanted to ask her a question, and maybe maybe our community development director wants to join her, I don't know. We have gotten a couple of letters from residents, and I should say, council has been copied on letters that are actually directed to ODOT, but copying council members and copying legislators about asking ODOT to make some tweaks to the plans for Highway 224, which is 2026, right? They're not repaving next year, it's 2026? Okay. So I wanted to know sort of your view on the comments people have been making. I will just say I'm inclined to support any comments that would make the project safer and that would also make it quieter for the neighbors that live right next to 224. So generally your thoughts on the comments, but also on the process and whether we should it makes any sense for us to weigh in with ODOT.
Thank you. So basically, engineering has requested them to drop the speed right through Marketplace to Harrison to 35 miles per hour. They've come back and have basically said no at this time, ODOT has. It would require a speed study for them to do, and they didn't feel they had time to do that within design. So they said they would look at it after design and construction was complete. It's not really how I probably would do it, because I would probably seek out some design changes that would help slow people down, not just by posting a sign. So it's a little odd, in my opinion. But they basically said no from this standpoint, and we've kind of had to just keep moving forward. I do feel, though, that this should get sent to ODOT and show why it, have a little bit higher political background with it would be, I think, awesome. I just don't have any more pull from my end on engineering.
Okay. Well, in that case, maybe, there were other things besides the speed. There were things about the nature of the wall or the railing, helping diminish noise. And there were some things about the turning radius at the intersections and stuff. I guess we won't decide how to, all of that tonight, but maybe we can work on a letter for consideration at the April 2nd meeting. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I should work with you or, how.
I'll probably have a hard time making that I'm out for spring break next week and then at a conference for the week after. So I need a little bit more time if you want help from me on that letter.
Well, I don't know if it has to be you. I defer to you guys to how you want to handle it. I will be out after April 2nd. So I'd kind of like to have it on the April 2nd agenda if we can get it done.
Just a quick question, Mayor. If we were to put something together, and I'm happy to work with you on that, then Jen, would you have the ability to just review it?
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as it's here before Thursday.
Friday.
I'm out Friday.
Yeah.
I'm out Friday. But we can have someone else review it on the team. Jeff is back, so I could volunteer Jeff maybe to help out a little bit. And we've got a few other, even Brandon's really strong in our group too. So we have plenty of folks. So yes, engineering can help do that review. One other thing I'd like to say about the other items in the letter, you do need to remember that their project is it's redoing the signal at Monroe, and then it's just paving. Mm-hmm. It is not a full-blown looking at other amenities. So you're going to have a little bit more difficult getting those extra things that are in there. I'm not saying you shouldn't say them, but that's a longer leap than actually trying to lower the speed limit through that section, which I think you have some good ground on.
So one of the comments made by Daniel Eisenbeis in his letter, which was the first one we got and the longer of the two, he seemed to think that they were redoing railings along the curb anyway, not just repaving. And so that they told him at the open house that was in this room, that actually doing them in concrete, doing them as solid as opposed to railings would be more cost effective. I didn't know if does that make sense to you? And did you think they were doing railings or,
I would have to check in with Brandon, but we're not, I mean, we're mostly focused on the intersection project, not the whole
right,
full-long project.
right, okay.
So.
Well, if it can, yeah, anyway, okay. Well, I mean, I want a reality check on what's, not so outside the scope that,
Sure.
They'll never listen to us, but I also want to try to support the residents and what they're asking for, so,
For sure.
yeah.
Yeah, Mayor, I would recommend, as you and Councilor Cosrabati work on just the draft, add the comments all the comments, and then I can also run it through, since Jen's going to be gone, I can run it through our other engineers for technical prioritization,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
But even if it doesn't make sense to be part of the design, at least you can provide those comments and pass along those comments to ODOT. I mean, there's some value there.
Right. We can attach them as our letter, right? I don't see the need to get into a lot of detail in our letter, yeah.
And I would say Brandon's probably our best shot since he's been working, he's the PM for the Monroe Greenway project. He'll know what's in that scope a little better.
Okay, great, great. All right, well, thank you. So before I launch into parks, did other people have council reports they wanted to give?
I actually missed the last West meeting. I'm going to watch the recording. However, I do want to say that the name I chose for the boring machine was not picked. Al Bohr didn't even make the top 30. Al Bohr. Al Bohr. That was my name. But they ended up naming it Clack-a-Mole.
Clack-a-Mole, yeah. I thought their names were all kind of clever, yeah.
Al Bohr was cold-blooded.
Oh.
So I have to watch it, so.
Okay.
That's all I have to report.
All right, well, I wanted to sort of elaborate on I've given you some notes from some of the parks meetings in written form, but I wanted to sort of expand on a couple of them. So I have some slides that the recorder has to put up for me. So, one of the topics of discussion at the DAC and discussion with our Parks and Recreation Board is about the relative costs of the Concord project at Milwaukie Bay Park and sort of how the former is being funded. So if you could go to the first slide. This is a slide provided by NCPRD to the DAC members about the funding for Concord. Now, this does not include the library. The library is a separate project, and I don't think this includes the playground. I think that is probably a separate project too, although it's not 100% clear on that score. I just want people to understand this Concord project is really phase one of what will be more projects. They are not doing the full plan for the Concord School property. They are doing a new entrance that is accessible, because accessibility at that old school is an issue. They're doing a new entrance that is accessible and oriented toward a plaza where the new library will be. And they are doing a new elevator in the lobby of that new entry. They are re-roofing, they are doing HVAC, and I think this $1.2 million of interior work is like some bathrooms and some carpet and some paint. I think they may be taking out they were asking their engineer to try and take out a couple of walls that would be non-load bearing, where they could make a bigger space where there had been 2 classrooms or something. But it's not athletic facilities, it's not extra gyms, which were called for in the original plan. It's not, there's also a stage, there's sort of a theater setup called for in the extra plan. It's not any of those things. It's just phase 1 of what will be a longer term project. And so it's got a dollar figure of $18 million. They are showing $2 million from SDCs for Zone 2, which is the zone where the thing is located. And you look at all the rest of that money, and it's really district-wide funds, right? Proceeds, grants, the NCPRD general fund. So it's district-wide proceeds going into that facility. And only $2 million of sort of anybody beyond the district sort of giving funds. Then let's look at Milwaukie Bay Park. And now this is a Milwaukie Bay Park, 2019. So it is, it's dated information. The park can't be built for that dollar figure anymore. But if you look back at it at 2019, Milwaukie, our SDCs were going for $2 million. Our share of Metro local share, 750,000. I thought and we pledged 250,000. So you've got there Milwaukie spending nearly a third, well, more than a third of the cost. Well, I guess a third of the cost, as opposed to only $2 million out of 18 million coming from the community of around the Concord School. So I mean, both this project is a cheaper project. It is a finished project and not just a phase. Well, it is a phase. It's the 3rd phase, but, so I understand the frustration of the folks on the Parks and Recreation Board and others who've come out pretty regularly to say, why aren't you moving forward on Milwaukie Bay Park? And then I would just say that I don't see any movement likely to happen on this, but I did want to talk about SDCs because we've heard some, the district is, Concord School is actually already classified as a district-wide amenity, as is Milwaukie Bay Park, as is like the Aquatic Center. Interestingly, the Milwaukie Community Center does not appear to have that designation, which I find very odd. But it's not clear to me whether just being called a district-wide amenity lets them move SDCs from the 3 zones of SDCs or not. And that's something I want to try to get to some, and that's going to take some analysis of the 2007 SDC study and the 2008 IGA and things I did not have time to go through before tonight. But I did want to show the totals of SDCs for the district. This is out of their budget. And so we have, there's 2.3 million. I mean, most of the SDC, the zones have something in the $2 million range. Our UGMA, interestingly, has $4 million, which I find fascinating. I don't remember that much development going on out there in the UGMA, but they have $4 million. What I don't know the answer to, and is how much of our recent development is reflected in that 2.3 million. Because I know some of our apartment buildings, some places pay their SDCs on getting their permits, and some pay them at the end at the certificate of occupancy. But I did a little math today on the SDC for an apartment is $3,608. And I did a little math on 7 acres, Henley Place, Bonaventure, Hillside, plus the small apartments that have been built on Harmony Road and in the Waverly neighborhood. And I got a number of about 3.7 million in SDCs for all of those. And with Coho, if Coho gets underway, that's another over $1 million in SDCs. So, I mean, we potentially have $5-ish million in SDCs that I'm very concerned about the Parks District and their board trying to use outside of Milwaukie. And so I just sort of want to get that issue out there for the public, for everyone here, for the public. I think there is going to be some talk at as I understand it, the Board of County Commissioners is going to hold a meeting in May to talk about SDC methodology and SDC rates. Our SDCs are quite low, much lower than most anybody else, including places like Gladstone and Canby. I think we all need to be watching what's happening with these SDCs, because I fear that we are in another situation where being part of this Parks District is going to hurt us rather than help us. So, Councilor Khosrowshahi?
Yes, sorry, Mayor. I just wanted to clarify. So in the previous one about the Concord project, it showed SDCs from Zone 2. We're in Zone 1. So the Concord project is not using our SDCs?
Well, can we go back to that slide? So it is not at present. It is not under that breakdown, but you see there's $9 million out of the NCPRD general fund,
Right.
the second line. And I do think there's an effort. I do think, nothing has been overtly stated, but my worry is that all this move about classifying it as a district-wide asset is about trying to backfill the NCPRD, because the NCPRD's general fund is they have the kind of budget constraints we have.
Yeah.
They are going to have a tough time getting their budget through this year. And so I do think there may be an effort to backfill from SDCs to that general fund balance.
So you're saying for future potential risk of our SDCs being used and out of our zone
Right.
projects,
Right.
so to speak. Okay.
Right.
So I watched, I watched you on the
DAC meeting?
on the DAC meeting, and I don't know, I have a little bit of a different take, because I think you're going too easy on them.
Oh.
Because I think what I heard was from the acting director is that they wanted to, I thought I heard her say that they wanted to be able to pull in SDCs from all the zones to build out Concord. I thought I heard that.
I don't remember her explicitly saying that. That was
Oh,
definitely the implication, but.
I think it was more explicit.
Okay.
But
okay,
I'll roll the tape again,
Okay,
because I thought I heard it more that they were taking that to the board,
yeah,
to the county board.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, and at the time of that meeting, she thought that Concord had not been designated as a district-wide amenity. And then when she went back and looked, that was actually something the prior director had moved through the board before he was canned last year. So that is already the case. It is designated as a district-wide amenity. So that's one less step they have to go through. But yeah. No, it's not pretty. It's not pretty. So I will I will keep everybody apprised of, anything new that comes in. But I just wanted everybody to be aware of this because I do think there's an effort to grab our SDCs, which of course was part of the whole concern of Happy Valley back in the day and why Happy Valley left the district. So, okay. On other park news, Robert and Emma and Peter and I did participated in a Zoom meeting with NCPRD yesterday about their systems plan. And if it weren't for this, this stuff with Concord, I would be really excited about the systems plan because I think it's great that they are finally launching into, that. Their systems plan dates from 2007. They did a minor tweak in the early teens, but it's really, nearly 20 years old. And so they are launching into an 18-month or 15-month process to, engage with the community about what the community wants out of their parks. And so they were talking to us about where to go for outreach in Milwaukie. And I thought we had a good conversation. We gave them, lots of ideas, about being at the farmer's market and talking to NDAs and all of those things. So I do anticipate that in May, we will see an outreach effort really kick off. There will be an online survey as well as, them tabling at various locations. And I do encourage everyone to really take it seriously and talk about what you would like to see out of your parks, because, whether we stay or go, that work is very important to us. And so I really do encourage all the residents to engage in that process and let them know what is missing. We heard a little bit of that from the work Adam Moore did on the 3 parks. He gave us the kind of list of what people were asking for: dog parks, bathrooms. Skate parks were lower down the list than I thought they would be, because I hear skate parks a lot. But anyway, anything else about that you wanted to say, either one of you? Yeah.
That was a great summary, Mayor. I think the only thing I'd add is we all, I think, echoed that this is a great opportunity, and Milwaukeeans have been engaged by NCPRD about parks several times over the last decade. And we often, when we're doing engagement, get questions like, whatever happened with what we talked about back in 2018 with the Milwaukie Bay Park Plan? And so we just really encouraged NCPRD staff to pull forward what they can from those previous engagement efforts and build from that, because that's all really good and very valid feedback as well. And I think they heard us on that point.
Yeah, I agree. Question?
I would just say, try not to get jaded, and please do participate, although I feel like I've participated in these before and I don't really see much activity, especially at Milwaukie Bay Park, which just goes on. And then as that slide you showed, we'll never build it for that amount. That day went and left, and it just seems like it sometimes spirals out of control and gets further out of reach, like a balloon floating away. But please stay involved, because the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and I think we're hearing that a little bit in Concord. I mean, some of those residents are those wheels are turning pretty squeaky, and it's having results. So please stay involved.
All right. Okay. Anybody else with any council reports? If not, we actually have another meeting after this meeting. So, if nothing else for council reports, I will read this notice. Immediately following the regular session, the City Council will convene as the Milwaukie Redevelopment Commission. If you would like to stay for that meeting, please stay where you are here at City Hall or on the Zoom webinar. The Milwaukie Redevelopment Commission will meet here in chambers and on the same Zoom session. Does anybody want a break before we go into that meeting, or should we just go into that meeting? Let's do it. Everybody's ready to go. Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the regular session.
I move to adjourn the commission meeting.
Council meeting?
Council meeting, sorry.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the city council meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. None heard. We are adjourned. All right. And then we are called back to order. I call the Redevelopment Commission meeting to order. This meeting is being held in person and by video conference. The public may participate in this meeting by coming to City Hall, joining the Zoom webinar, or watching on the city's YouTube channel or Comcast Cable Channel 30 within city limits. There may be opportunities for the public to speak during this meeting. If you would like to address the commission, you may come to City Hall or raise your hand in the Zoom webinar. If you are in person at City Hall and wish to speak, please submit a yellow comment card to staff. Written comments may be emailed to ocr@milwaukieoregon.gov. When it is time to take public comment, staff will monitor the comment cards, email inbox, and the Zoom participant list and chat. We will take comments in the order they are received and seen. So, is there any discussion about the July 11th, 2023 Redevelopment Commission minutes that were in our packet? And if not, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the July 11th, 2023 Redevelopment Commission meeting minutes.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the July 11th, 2023 Redevelopment Commission meeting minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say no. Meeting minutes are approved. And with that, I would invite up the Executive Director of the MRC, also known as our Community Development Director, Joseph Briglio.
Thank you, Chair Mayor. It's like multiverse.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. I felt like I was in Happy Valley again, having a parks discussion. I was like, am I in Happy Valley? And then it's like alternate universe city council happening right now. Yeah. So again, I'm Joseph Briglio. I'm the Executive Director, which is not common, but I get to wear it tonight. So thank you for all being here, Chair and Commissioners. So I'm going to call you something different, just so you know. Make you all feel like we're in a different place. I'm here to talk to you briefly about, I'll try to be brief, about economic development programming as part of the urban renewal area. This was partly developed through the 5-year action plan. If you look back in the 5-year action plan, it speaks to capital improvement projects, but it also speaks to a number of economic development focused programming. These are consistently known as pre-development assistance, storefront improvement, tenant improvement programs. These are kind of your bread and butter, so to speak, economic development programs when folks think about urban renewal. And I just, in preparation for this meeting tonight, I looked back in some of the engagement that we did for the 5-year action plan, and I just pulled out some of the survey data. At the very bottom, you can see an asterisk, and just talking about there was the vast majority of people that we engaged with during that time were most interested, thought this would be most helpful, and the most desired were these types of programs, basically these 3. So this is important to our community. It's been brought up in the past, and so we're trying to give it scaffolding, trying to give it a framework. And so tonight I'm going to provide you a little bit about where we are. Again, this was formed by the Community Advisory Committee with our lovely chair, Stavenjord, at the helm. So all this didn't come just from me. It came from a couple meetings with MRCCAC, as well as working with our consultant, John Southgate. And you'll see a lot more detail in the staff report, also even more detail in his memo. For the presentation, I'm trying to just hit the highlights and hopefully keep us focused on any kind of discussion from there. So with that, I'll jump in to the first program. And if you want to interrupt me on the way, that's great. If you want to wait for questions at the end, fantastic. So pre-development assistance is essentially supporting and spurring development in the redevelopment area or the urban renewal area by assisting soft costs for certain parcels. So that's things like feasibility studies, conceptual designs, technical analysis, like your environmental phase ones. And it's essentially to help either property owners or those under contract to pursue a property, to do their due diligence and actually see how to unlock that property and the developability of that property. Maximum grant amount, for this case, we're proposing $50,000. However, if the project is shown to be catalytic, and catalytic is a pretty subjective term, I'll get to some of the components that I think are part of catalytic and trying to define that a little bit later in the presentation. But if someone wants to approach the city and ask for more when it comes to pre-development assistance, then I would say, let's go before this body and have you all be the judge of whether they're deserving of additional funds or not, up to $100,000. Match requirement would be 50,000, 50% of that 50,000, and the MRC would own all the work that is completed under this. So that would help us not continue to recreate the wheel. If there's a new interest, new property owner trying to do the same thing, then we can also shop that material around in case we want to try to spur development on further. So that's pre-development assistance, high level. Storefront improvement, I won't belabor this too much. I'm sure most of you are familiar with what the intent is here, but it's essentially to enhance the look and feel of the facades of downtown. So buildings throughout. Exterior improvements. This is less to do with uses that are going on and mostly has everything to do with just about building facade. So it's more interested in updating facades to make it more aesthetically pleasing as you experience your walk in the URA.
And Metro used to have money for this, but they don't anymore?
I don't know. I know they did, and I thought they still did, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
I know there's someone, maybe. Don't put you on the hot seat, Commissioner Adma.
Not my area, but I do recall hearing about it at Metro, and I know the folks involved, if you want me to ask someone. But I don't know if it's still funded or not.
I mean, I know for years ago, like Cha-Cha-Cha, when they opened, they got a grant. I don't know if it was Metro. That was always my impression. I mean, the city administered it or somehow, it was sort of a partnership, but, so I just wondered if there's, potential funding there too to tap into
Yes. There was, I thought there is at this juncture, but I could be wrong. Okay. I'm not sure. Match requirements there, be 50% just like the other ones. However, there's also this idea of having a mini grant. So kind of 5,000 and below. And people would be like, what's that really for? Well, unfortunately, over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of like glass breaking, a lot of businesses getting hit by graffiti and things of that nature. So in order to keep that facade up and reduce the amount of match required to keep those upgrades and those improvements and repairs, it's kind of a standard minimum grant amount. And that match would be 25% since it's so low. Also, I didn't mention the maximum grant amount being $25,000. To the chair's point, for Cha-Cha-Cha, that was a $10,000 grant from the city that the city administered back then. So this program's much more robust than, and as far as that facade improvement for Cha-Cha-Cha, if I remember correctly, that was like 10% of their cost at the time. I think it was around 100K. Let's see, sorry, where was I? If the city would consider, the MRC would consider $50,000 increase, or I should say the executive director or program manager, if the use was likely to result in additional local benefits, and that kind of goes with catalytic project, and again, I'm going to speak to that a little bit more in a few slides away, so just put a pin in that one for now. And duration for any improvements, and this will be true of the tenant improvement program, 5 years is the typical, what other cities have done, what other commissions have done, just to make sure that you're not investing in seeing that thing ripped out the next year. So 5 years is kind of standard. Tenant improvement, so storefronts exterior, tenant improvement is interior. And what's different about this program and the storefront improvement is that this is a little bit more tailored to uses, in the sense that it's typically more tailored towards restaurants, hospitality, retail, things that bring in customers from the street, that draw in customers and have that interaction of back and forth, back and forth. And also, it's been strategically used to not allow office uses on the first floor to be upgraded or updated through tenant improvement monies. That's not necessarily increasing the downtown type of core feel that you want. We can open that up for discussion, but I'll say that our colleagues in other cities, this is one thing they said, yeah, you want to stick to supporting these types of uses versus office type uses. Maximum ground mount, very similar to storefront. They could be layered, so if someone was doing exterior and interior work, yes, they could pursue both. 5-year duration for improvements as well. This is unique for us, and this came out of our discussions with the MRCCAC. There was this acknowledgement that URA, urban renewal as a tool, has historically displaced people of color for sure, but everybody essentially that has been in a part of a location has been displaced if they've been long-term tenants or long-term business owners. Kind of the old guard has been pushed out. And so in order to reduce displacement, we had this conversation about what tools are available. And if you can solve the gentrification discussion, then amazing. Like that question is hard to answer. But I'll say that we did try to at least make some inroads to answer that, and by saying, providing business retention in the sense of strategic business consulting to those businesses that are currently existing in our urban core or urban renewal area. And why would that be of use and why would that be helpful? Well, a lot of these folks don't have the ability to do a construction project, whether it's interior or exterior. However, in other cities that have done something similar, they've seen these older businesses find their feet again and become more modernized, just with some simple like coaching, some changing of the business plan, merchandising, a lot of things that, yeah, you might get through SBDC, you might get through SCORE, these other kind of free-based or free opportunities to businesses. However, the ones that we're speaking to are really more strategic, get into the guts of businesses and really do figure out what is lacking. So this would kind of be a companion program, a pocket program to help retain those types of businesses that are currently, or just retain businesses that are currently here and existing that can't take a huge hit of debt and do any kind of improvement project yet. And this is also a way for them to maybe build to that capacity as well. So this would be new. I don't know, most cities don't have it. I don't think they frame it this way, but it's something that was brought up through the MRCCAC, and I thought was.
I was going to say, back in, 2017, 18, Alma Flores did bring some people in and do training. It wasn't one-on-one consulting like this, but she did bring Mercy Corps.
Yes. Yeah.
And some other, I think maybe, I can't remember who the other one was, but she did offer a couple of small business sort of training, consulting things for businesses. And yeah, it's good to see us getting back to some of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and those are good partners to have. In my experience using like SBDC, I don't have much experience with Mercy Corps and SCORE. I do have experience with them. It's just the matter of consistency and getting like timely responses and getting the specific needs met. Just have it more tailored towards more professional services.
Can I ask a question while we're on that topic?
Sure.
So, yeah, I was intrigued by this anti-displacement companion program, and I wasn't. And your verbal description kind of fleshed it out for me, and it seems like that really, kind of fits into the development assistance program. Although the businesses may already be there, but I see that there's sort of a natural link with the Development Assistance Program. But at the same time, I guess when we're dealing with this situation, all three of these programs kind of overlay that. But I see a particularly good link with the Development Assistance Program. Do I have that right?
I would say that, so the pre-development assistance program is really for new ideas.
Okay.
Yeah. And this would be for helping people have new ideas while they're stay in place. So it doesn't really change the dynamic of the structure, but it keeps the business relevant, really. That's the hope. Versus pre-development is really about construction and development of the property.
Okay, so pre-development is all hardware.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
Yep. That's the goal.
Thank you.
Yes. You're welcome. Any other questions with this slide? I can move on.
Not seeing any.
Great. And this was also a pretty robust conversation at MRCCAC, is this idea about values and preferences. So when there is, and this is going to be mostly embedded in the application process, and it's something that we didn't want to necessarily make it as a requirement in order to not impede someone from actually taking advantage of these programs. But when resources are tight, or when there is competition for these resources, and in addition to also just requiring businesses that are asking for money to think through some of these core values that are here in our city, we wanted to bring it to their attention up front and to your attention tonight. Primarily, usually there's a focus on downtown core, when downtown core for us would be like Main Street and 21st Avenue as being kind of, that's the preference, the priority. However, anyone can use these within the URA. Other ideas is job creation. So how many jobs, in addition to what's already existing for a business, what additional jobs are being created because of the improvement? Is the improvement also allowing for the reduction of barriers for additional owners? There are some business models that allow for multiple vendors under, or vendors slash businesses under the same roof. So is there like a multiplier effect by supporting this business endeavor? Also placemaking, community building. So is the use providing a sense of destination and a place that people want to come to and have an experience? Are they using local hiring efforts for any new jobs created? Are they providing local contracting efforts for any of the construction? How fast is project completion? And then a catch-all at the end is similar locally based benefits that maybe we haven't thought of that someone else could bring up. And then the other kind of side of this slide, it talks about considerations, and these were things in addition to preferences that MRCCAC was pretty verbal about. And that's disallowing national change, which is pretty common for cities. Allowing local chains though, up to a specific limit, either annual revenues or the number of stores they have like within Oregon or within the metro. That's still something to be fleshed out, but a few come to mind. Allowing a 6-month look back. I would be interested to know what you all think about this. There was oh dang, didn't we just get a new bookstore downtown and they're not going to get a chance to use any of this. So do we want to offer kind of a reimbursement for those that were a little late to the party, but they have the receipts and can show that, what it cost and receive some reimbursement?
Explain that again, I'm sorry.
So say the program starts July 1st, like in a perfect world. However, the Sierra Cook's bookstore just opened, let's say it opened up now. Then allowing that improvement, the improvements that they've done now and before to also be utilized, or basically to apply for a grant, even though the work's already been done. It just allows people to apply and get that assistance, even though they were before the game was kicked off, so to speak.
Them in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, or do
least give them
they
the opportunity.
have other things they would do with Newman? I mean, did they do everything or did they cut some corners on things and have new things they would do or add?
Yeah, I think that might be more of the case for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
And also, one of the larger values in all this was making sure that we market first to historically underserved populations. I went over a pretty good list in the staff report of organizations that could help us meet that, but giving them the first chance at this program, they're usually the last to know, usually the last to have access, and usually pretty intimidated by government in general. So at least doing as much as we can to get the word out to them first and foremost, and then allowing marketing as usual to happen after that. And then I'm sure I missed stuff. So I'm going to give Chair Staffen-Jord, Chair of MRCCAC, Staffen-Jord, Commissioner Staffen-Jord a chance to.
Well, first of all, thank you, Joseph. I know that we've really made you work hard for your paycheck in this process, but I think that the product is amazing. And I'm really happy to see what came out of this. I also just really briefly want to appreciate all of the members of the Community Advisory Committee. They put in some very long meetings and a lot of really great thought around how we develop the urban renewal area while also staying true to the values and principles that we have here in Milwaukie. And I think that we've come up with a product that does that. So I wanted to mention that I really appreciate that we've been able to maintain a focus on strategies that will reduce displacement for local businesses and, by association, I think local residents who will start up businesses in Milwaukie. I think that that's really important. And I really appreciate that we've been able to keep the focus on technical assistance that will make this whole process more accessible for those businesses and residents. I think we're in a city that's growing and developing so quickly that in some cases, if you are a renter, you know, you may not have the window to buy a house, but if you have that window to open a local business and build capital and build capital that way, then I think that you can reopen that window to be able to buy a house and stay in Milwaukie. So I just really appreciate that. Normally, the way that we think about, we societally or as urban planners think about the tool of urban renewal, it's you know, looking at things like the sticks and bricks and the infrastructure and how we just kind of go from like a traditionally, quote, blighted area and how you make that improvement and return on investment. That doesn't leave a lot of space for how we think about the people who live in our community and the businesses that we want to see. So I really appreciate that. The look back, I think, is one of those tools that is really unique. I think it's a really unique and a strategy that I think we'll see other jurisdictions copy because it does help to break down some of those barriers around accessibility. We've had a URA, we just haven't had these tools and the application process and things fully ready for folks to take advantage of. So it adds some flexibility there. I appreciate the partnership with networks and organizations that work specifically with populations that are underrepresented in accessing resources like this. You know, when you think about like big pots of funding that go out in urban renewal projects, it's a lot of times to people who are familiar with navigating that process. And so if we're front loading our outreach to the community by working with organizations that have those unique networks and those unique relationships and that trust that's already built, then we're, you know, already a step ahead in terms of maintaining the diversity and the welcoming feel that we have here in Milwaukie. The other thing that I wanted to mention is the focus locally was really important, and that was a theme that came through in the Community Advisory Committee meetings. Just really making sure that we're welcoming to new and existing business owners and residents, focusing on the things that you know, are highlighted in the five-year plan that we've heard from residents over the years about what makes Milwaukie so special to them, and staying true to that while also building our economic presence And I think that we have a really great start right here. So I'm really excited to start seeing some of these applications come through the pipeline. And yeah, if my excitement at 8:10 is not coming through enough, I'll have much more to say after the meeting if you want to grab a coffee. So it's really great. Thank you, Joseph.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilor Koshrabadi?
Yeah, this is awesome. I appreciate it very much. It's really good to see some things start moving in the right directions as it pertains to economic development. We have a lot of changes coming through to Milwaukie, so it's important that we implement these programs sooner rather than later and are late to the dinner bell. A couple of things that I was curious about, because and these may be low hanging fruit. We've talked about this in the past, but you know, we don't offer anything for minority-owned businesses or women-owned business or veteran-owned business or anything like that. So I don't know if we've thought about maybe doing any sort of like portion of the business registration fee waived for those businesses to encourage more of those businesses to come. And also looking into potentially, I know we have the grants, but it would be good to also provide grants for economic downturns to help keep those doors open. Because I know, especially during COVID, we did as much as we could,
Right.
but I know it didn't go as far as we probably wanted it to, and we lost some businesses that way. So, you know, maybe dedicating a portion of those business registration fees to a rainy day fund to where, you know, business owners can potentially borrow from or apply for those type of grants to keep the doors and the lights on, would also be beneficial if we can potentially look into that. And then maybe some sort of a loyalty program where every year a business registers and stays in Milwaukie, they get a $5 to $10, $15 reduction on their business registration fee. And then, you know, they can drop all the way down to, what is it, 175 right now, to like 100, as low as $100, you know, so just these lower hanging fruits that could potentially also aid in the development of these programs and continued success and support for those businesses.
Yeah, I like the ideas. I also will say those happily, those are actually under Finance Director Michael Osborne now. But I am happy to pass along those concepts and ideas.
This is great. I mean, this is what we've kind of been talking about for quite a while, is just even the facelift that downtown needs, right? Not just downtown, but also the east side. But just the overall true investment, not that we haven't been before, but, you know, being able to see what that investment's going to turn into, right? And the displacement, because I know that's been big for Councilor Stavanger as well, the economic displacement. So, yeah, these are incredible moves, and I just like to see more as we move forward.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we all, part of this was also this isn't one and done in the sense that we can adjust if this isn't working, if demand isn't high, if there's something that we're doing wrong. These aren't requirements that are like state mandated. These are our requirements, you know, our criteria. So we can adjust accordingly over time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Others have any questions or comments?
Well, a comment is that great work, thanks. I love the idea of the economic development, and I have felt that we haven't done enough for our downtown businesses and just economic development generally. And I know that's been discussed as a goal on occasion and all of this, but, so this is good work. This is wonderful that we're starting to get to a point where we can maybe give some money. I would also wonder if there's any way that we could use some of the money, if anyone is interested in converting a ground floor office to because
Yes.
our
I see where you're going.
Great, because our downtown's not what we would call activated at times, or when I used to, anyway, in a prior role, I did economic development for downtown storefronts. And anyway, I feel like we have banks, we have dentist office.
Yes.
Like, I really want more retail. And so if someone could come forth and say, I'd like to convert this office to something else, that'd be great.
And currently, as the framework stands, that would be acceptable if they were transferring from a office use to a retail or a restaurant hospitality use. Yeah, there's some spaces down there. Quite a few.
And I also want to say to Councilor Stavengeor's point about historically urban renewal dollars are because you think there's a blighted area and you need to fix it. But I think that if you do these kinds of things and you just gussy it up a little bit, because we already have, the bones are there.
Yes.
Gussy it up, that will invite more people to come forth, and then maybe they on their own will want to go into places that we would consider blighted, although I don't know that we have as many blighted places. But you're right, like there's ways to improve our downtown without this historical blighted kind of viewpoint. So I think that's great. This is just wonderful if it moves forward, like, it's great.
Yeah, I'll echo the, good work, comments from the other counselors. But I have a question. Do you think that you have visibility on all of the businesses coming to Milwaukie? Or,
Like a good sense of what's
Yeah.
out there, kind of looking in?
yeah, I just, if I was starting a business somewhere, I'd probably go talk to to you, but I mean, are the businesses just show up and say, here's my money for a permit? I mean,
Yeah, quite frankly, the more savvy ones, and even the ones that are maybe less savvy, I should say, they'll look for an economic development position at the city. That's typically where they'll look, at least on our website. And they'll also be looking for, many businesses are aware of these types of programs, so they'll be already scouring. That's commonly what I'm asked. Actually, when I get phone calls, it's, do you guys have any of the storefront, tenant improvement programs? Do you guys offer any kind of money? Do you do anything? And so I do get quite a few calls, and I do think that most businesses will reach out because of permitting. I mean, in my seat alone, just because I have a connection to economic development, into building, into engineering, I have been this conduit. So I do feel like I have a good sense of maybe who's outside looking in.
well, that's one of the reasons I'm kind of intrigued by the 6-month look back, because when you think about, the kinds of communities we want to invite in who don't have that experience to go and ask you, but want to start a business, then they just might, like I said, show up and say, here, I want to pay the business permit.
Yeah.
And then they go, well, have you heard about? And so we might catch them at that point. I just didn't have a feel for, if that actually happens.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Actually, it does. And that, I have a couple examples in my mind right now of people that are actually waiting for these programs to happen before they sign a lease.
Okay. All right.
So I already feel plenty of pressure. And there's also, as a city organization, as an urban renewal or redevelopment commission, there's a sense of accountability that we've been collecting increment over the years since 2017, and we should use it, and we need to use it. And so I feel like it's, if we continue to wait, then regardless of resources, if we continue to wait, we are doing some serious injustice to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Khosrowshahi?
Sorry, I meant to include this on the last point, was the local only. I'm actually a big fan of that. Because I've in studies that I've done, that's like you said, is popular, right? And not only that, but just looking on the Institute for Local Self-Resilience, it says it right here, wages and benefits. These studies show that locally owned businesses are linked to higher income growth and lower levels of poverty, while big box retailers, particularly Walmart, depress wages and benefits for retail employees.
Yeah,
So just as, if anybody needed more reassurance on why you want to focus on local and not those national chains, I mean, that's just another reason.
Absolutely.
So, thank you. Thank you.
Councilor Adama?
Yeah, I was just thinking when we were talking about, I think Councilor Stavenjord said it, that sometimes it's for people who aren't savvy, that they don't know to come forward and then to navigate the process. Are we considering any kind of outreach? We know there's a finite number of businesses on Main Street. We know who they are. But also, I'm thinking about some of the specialty chambers around the region. So there may be, I don't know where they're headquartered, but there's a Latino Chamber of Commerce and others. I don't know if we're reaching out to try and draw in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent question. And actually, in the section of the staff report, I list as many as I could of exactly that. So to your point, yes.
So what's the timeline?
So,
Yeah,
great question.
There we go.
Chair.
There we go.
So we are currently in the budget process. So I'm getting these programs funded. There is funding and there is increment to fund these programs. So adopt the budget. Then I think the next big hurdle really is the development application and agreement materials that but I'm hoping to really help lean on or mostly lean on our other agencies or other friends in other cities to help with those. And then marketing and then implementation. So we can try to get as close to adoption of the budget, but I would say probably fall or.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so you said
Summer
July 1,
was my,
but
like,
that
my
was
hope and goal,
not
but
the-
I think
yeah.
if I'm being realistic, it's probably fall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it does sound like you want to start I mean, if we're going to give the historically disadvantaged folks the lead,
start,
you
yeah.
want to start, give them a couple months head start or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. So
Exactly.
maybe you don't have to have the application and the materials completely ready to start that kind of work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Counselor, I have some more questions, but Counselor Stavanger?
Oh, just a quick question along those lines about the look back, because, if we're having this conversation now, we then approve the budget and move into the fall, that kind of eats up the intent around that 6-month period. So I guess I'm curious your thoughts, and then also the thoughts of my colleagues around that.
Yeah, been thinking about that as well, because I think at the MRC CAC, we said 6 months, but is it 12 months? I don't know. I mean, you bring up a good point. I'm not sure. I'm open to your comments and.
I guess my feeling on the look back is I'd rather give people a chance to ask for something expansion, something they didn't do because they didn't have the money, and go there than just say, oh, you already spent this money, we'll give you 50%. I don't know. I mean, I think, most businesses have things they would like to add or they would like to do, or,
Right.
I guess I'd want to hear, I mean, we don't have that many recently opened businesses, right?
Right.
We have
Only a few.
tattoo shop and a bookshop and,
Ice cream
and an ice cream shop.
and a vintage shop and a bookstore.
Oh, yeah.
I said bookstore.
Oh, sorry.
So we debated the 6 and 12 months, what makes sense.
Yeah,
To your point, yeah, I mean, getting the program stood up
Yeah.
and going is going to take even more time.
yeah,
So
yeah.
is it the initial term look back? Is it 12 and then a year from then? Is it 6 months from?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I guess it would just be the initial term. Sorry. Yeah, there would be no look back because the program would be going.
Yeah, yeah. On the anti-displacement assistance piece, are you thinking that is also, focused on things that create foot traffic as opposed to office?
Yes.
Because we do have, I do feel like I did a bunch of research in late in last year, and so what are some of these, I walked along 21st, and what are some of these businesses, and I tried to look them up, and we do have a fair number of office uses of sort of antiquated sort of office uses, but they've probably got really cheap rent, and so they're still, using it. We have a lot of what I call second story businesses on the ground floor, right? So I would hate for that piece of assistance to also prolong more of that thing, so.
So I would say, yeah, no, those wouldn't be the target businesses. And I would suggest those would be the exact businesses we would say, you maybe should talk to SBDC or SCORE.
Yeah,
There's resources out there, however, these resources are for foot traffic, really, and really creating life in the URA.
yeah.
And more pedestrian, more foot traffic and commerce.
Then I also wanted to ask, sort of outside the scope of.
Oh, your mic is off.
Oh. Sorry. I also wanted to ask, outside the scope of these programs that you're trying to stand up, I just wanted to get a general URA update, because on page MRC 26, you had the schedule of what, that came out of the plan that was done. And I realized some of these things are not have their own timeline, like there's Monroe Greenway, okay, it's got its own timeline. And the parking solutions, we kind of agreed could be on a slower track, but there's some other things in here, downtown Main Street enhancements.
Yeah, those are,
Some other things on here that transit stop improvements, that I just wondered where those things stand.
yeah, good question, fair question. So those have actually been, those have been bonded for and are also being overlapped with some of our CIP projects. So downtown business, our Main Street enhancements, I can say, are going to be part of a CIP project for enhancing not only just the curb sidewalks, but also tree wells and trees. So the idea is to get those not just on Main Street, but also the lateral streets, yeah, side streets. And really, all this, I can couch all this with saying that resources are a real deal for us as an organization. We don't have a ton of people power. And so trying to find ways to leverage projects and so hit multiple projects is kind of what we've been doing, especially with these funds, the bonded funds especially, when it comes to downtown enhancements. And I can say also the transit stop improvements, we're also including as part of the development on Harrison and Washington, and I think a couple other CIP projects. But the short of it is we're trying to layer them into current CIP. Yeah, and we have. A couple of the other ones, yeah, we'll see what happens with Kellogg Dam removal. That does have some legs. But for the most part, we are trying to stay close to this. And what is keeping us really going for a lot of these is anything that was bonded. Any of the monies that were bonded for, we have to complete essentially by 2006, if I remember correctly. So a big chunk of those will be checked off by then.
Okay. Other questions, other comments? All right, well, it's exciting. It's nice to see it moving forward. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Are there further commission reports? I mean, Counselor Stavanger sort of gave her, yeah, nope.
No, I don't have anything other than just pure excitement for this phase of the work.
Okay, well, then with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will move to adjourn the commission meeting.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the Milwaukie Redevelopment Commission meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. None heard. We are adjourned. Okay.